Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no service fees. ShopTicketsForLess.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone.
All right, I have for you the definitive list. I love when people say that things are definitive. And so I will join the crew. The definitive list. Nebraska's most hype home games since 2004. But first, let's check in on Creighton and UNO baseball. What's going on out there?
Not a bad idea either. You get Dick in there to start the game, but as a catcher, he's caught most of the innings this year. Give him a break,
John!
because this is a very important weekend.
Aiden Hunt remains at second, leading away. 0-1 pitch. That one misses low with the breaking ball. 1-1.
Okay.
We did not manipulate that audio. It just happened naturally.
There is a player on UNO named Cardell Dick. But that was just lucky. That was just a lucky drop-in by us.
To everyone asking, yes, after the segment, I will pull the clip and we'll play it again.
Yeah. Yep. Good to check in, though, with John and Nick.
So what's the criteria for this list again?
We're talking about pre-game hype. All right.
Okay, so pre-game.
Pre-game hype and then environment, like it does not take into account the actual quality of the game. In some cases, these games actually ended up being good. But I'm thinking lead up to the game. Oh, by the way, I owe a lot to this list. A shout out to Husker Max, who has every game, and then they have all of like the articles that were written pregame, predictions, notes, and things like that. Like, great resource for a list like this. And so I have come up with 12 for you. We do this in honor of Nebraska hosting a night game with Colorado on September 7th. People forget.
Nasty.
Be a night game. It's 6:30. Charles and Jefferson Steelflex they were very thrown off by our check-in with John and Nick out at the ballpark.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was thrown off by it as well, to be completely honest with you. All right, here's the list. We'll start. We'll go in chronological order, Josh.
Please, yes.
If you guys have any additions or things that you think that I have omitted, please send them my way. Andy McCullough will join us in 15 minutes, and we'll talk baseball with him. October 21st, 2006 is where this story begins. Number 17, Nebraska hosted number 5, Texas. A little bit of juice was taken out of this because it was an 11 a.m. game. It was an 11 a.m. ABC game. This game we now remember as the Terrence Nunn game, where Terrence Nunn fumbled. Nebraska had a 1-point lead with 3 minutes left and has a first down by Terrence Nunn. He was tackled, ball got knocked loose, and Texas went down, got a field goal, and won. Nebraska was
not the snow game.
I mean, yeah, it started snowing.
Okay.
It started snowing, I think, at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. It was Terrence Nunn fumbled.
Uh-huh.
Terrence Nunn fumbled. And so Nebraska up until this point, I mean, remember 2004 and 2005 didn't necessarily go very well. 2006, Nebraska had only lost one game up to that point. It was against USC. They were doing okay, right? They were doing okay. Maybe there's a chance that they're back. We got number 5 Texas in the house. There's some hype going into this one that, of course, ended in pain and suffering, as they usually do. But any home game with Texas has usually been pretty big. That was the first one that came to my list, once again, post 04. We fast forward to the next year, September 15th, 2007. Number 14, Nebraska hosts number 1 USC.
Number 1.
7 o'clock on ABC. College game day comes to town. They decide to set things up on the field this time.
Ooh.
Lee Corso picks Southern Cal, and people start to throw corn cobs at him on the stage. I know, because I was one of them. And remember, Nebraska, after going down quickly 7-0, came back, tied the game, and then took the lead. Had a 10-7 lead early in the second quarter. Night game, number 1 team in the house. Nebraska, you're feeling like Nebraska's back. It and then they ended up being down 42-10 midway through the third quarter. So it was
Well,
short-lived, but the hype and the intensity was there.
I believe I was at a wedding during this game.
Thank you.
That's my contribution.
Thank you for your contribution. I believe I was at a wedding for this game. So
Go on with the list.
Tom Brady doing color analysis.
Did I say that? Did that slip out?
September 27th, 2008, Nebraska hosts Virginia Tech. This is Bo's first big game. 7:00 on ABC. Missouri was obviously big the next week too, but Nebraska got absolutely throttled in that game. Nebraska found themselves down 35-23 with about 2 minutes left in this game. They scored quickly, 80-yard drive quickly with Joe Gans. Nebraska didn't get the onside kick, but they forced a punt, had a couple plays, got across midfield, and then fumbled at the 44 with a few seconds left in the game. They probably weren't going to win it anyway, but it was a furious comeback. Night game, premier non-conference, power team coming into town, and it was Bo's first big one. So I throw Virginia Tech into this conversation. Then we move to November 7th, 2009. Nebraska hosts number 20 Oklahoma. This game was at 7:00 on ABC.
Jeffrey on YouTube was asking for it.
Jeffrey, you got it, buddy. Nebraska grabs 5 Landry Jones interceptions. And Matt O'Hanlon, who made up for his horrible performance at the Virginia Tech game, according to some, had 3 of them. And Ndamukong Suh blocked the field goal. Alex Henry had some sick-ass punts, and Nebraska won 10-3 against Oklahoma in 2009.
Barn burner.
It was awesome. That game was sick. There is nothing like a really good defense game for Nebraska. You just know it's going to be so hard to score that day. A great defense game.
Everybody was doing the bones.
Oh, yeah. They were doing 3-and-out bones all night long. That is on the list. We are through, 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then, of course, this disaster. October 16th, 2010, number 5 Nebraska hosts Texas. This was a 2:30 ABC ESPN kickoff. Nebraska was 9 days removed from dismantling Kansas State. Taylor Martinez had announced himself to the rest of college football. Texas was scuffling. Nebraska finally had this opportunity to exercise their demons against a poor Texas team. And born was a catchphrase, a slogan, if you will. They called it "Red Out Around the World."
Oh.
Great idea, in theory. But Nebraska tested their luck a little bit too much. Taylor Martinez ran for 21 yards. Garrett Gilbert ran like crazy. It was Nightmare City. This is why we all have PTSD. When you say people are scared to get hype, get excited about something and throw all of their energy and excitement to getting behind a common cause, this is why they won't do it. This is why people refuse to, instead, they just dip their toe in the water instead of diving headfirst into the pool. They're afraid to break their necks. This was the broken neck game. This game sucked. That was a horrible, horrible day. Because it was all coming up Nebraska. It's like, all right, sweet.
Dark, dark day.
Let's make Texas, even though they're not very good, like we finally get to beat them, and we'll just bludgeon them. We'll just kill them. We just beat K-State.
Make it
9
nasty.
years ago. Oh.
That game.
That game was a nightmare. Nightmare game. Eric Hagg took back a punt or kick or whatever that was, and I don't know. It got a little interesting late, but not particular. This game is on the list for its pregame hype. We move into the Big Ten era. September 29th, 2012. Number 22, Nebraska hosts Wisconsin. This is an ABC primetime kickoff. 7:12 p.m. was the kickoff time. Nebraska comes from down 17. They were wearing horrible, horrible, horrible uniforms.
End of the third power.
That's how we remember this game mostly. And the one time that Nebraska actually beat Wisconsin as members of the Big Ten. They exacted revenge against Wisconsin from the 2011 shellacking. Of course, it was short-lived Nebraska was re-shellacked just about 2 months later in the Big Ten championship game, 70-31. But people were very excited about this game, night game, Wisconsin, and believe it or not, for the horrible, horrible alternate jerseys.
Michael Severus chimed in.
Hello, Michael.
He says that Texas game was as loud as any game I have attended in Memorial Stadium. The 11 a.m. start had not affected the energy. When it started snowing, it was when the crowd went wild.
Yeah, you're talking about the 06, the Terrence Nunn game. Yeah. Yes. I remember being very, very excited, and probably the most mad that I've ever been when Terrence Nunn fumbled that football. Maybe the most mad that I've ever been in my entire life. I couldn't believe that was happening to me. Why, God, have you chosen me for all this to harbor all this pain?
I would love to say, no, I'm much bigger than that. I never shouted Terrence Nunn's name in anger.
Oh, I did. I was so angry. I was so mad at Terrence Nunn.
I did. I yelled at that poor boy.
September 14th, 2013. Now, this game makes the list, but it has a couple caveats. Number 23, Nebraska hosts number 16, UCLA. Caveat number 1, it was 11 a.m. kickoff. There was some excitement for this game. It was the premier non-conference game. It was UCLA. It's a brand you haven't seen in a while, West Coast. Nebraska had got drilled by them the year before out in LA. This was a big game. It was setting up to be very fun. Nebraska was set to debut their black uniforms, their stencil black uniforms.
Those were fine.
The game ended up being at 11 o'clock, but what happened was a UCLA football player died 6 days before the game.
Oh, that's right.
And it really kind of just lost a ton of juice. But I'll leave this one on the list almost because of how it could have been. Nebraska they were up I think they were up 21-3 in the game and then just got completely boat raced the rest of the way. Kind of another nightmare.
Yeah, this game rings a bell now.
Yeah, that game low-key actually sucked a lot. But we don't talk about that one very much. September 20th, 2014, the gold standard for nasty. Number 24, Nebraska hosts Miami at 7 o'clock. This game was on ESPN2. Brad Kaya's Miami Hurricanes. Trash talk throughout the week. Miami comes to town. It was nasty. Amir Abdullah ran 35 times for 229 yards just 2 weeks after completely saving Nebraska's butts against McNeese State.
That's right.
He was a full-on Heisman candidate after this night. Nebraska ran 24 second-quarter plays, and 20 of them were runs. This is Bo Pelini's wet dream.
Yeah.
He was so jacked to be able to just absolutely ram it down the throat of Miami. Nebraska had 10 straight run plays during that 20 out of 24 runs in the second quarter. They bullied Miami, and it was indeed their worst nightmare.
I was working the board for that game on the radio, and just there were times where they had to turn the Nat sound down because you could not hear the play-by-play.
Brunts has tweeted in.
Hi, Brunts.
Did we skip over 2010 Missouri at home? I gave it consideration. I gave it consideration, but because that was the week after the Texas game, the Red Out Around the World game. And and then given what happened to Nebraska, Missouri was really, really good. Missouri won 52-17, and Nebraska got absolutely drilled in that game. But coming off of the Texas loss, I think it lost some. It may have lost some juice. That's why I didn't include it on this. But that's always if I would have expanded the list to 15, it definitely would have been on here. We continue on. September 17th, 2016. We might have to finish this later. September 17th, 2016. Nebraska hosts number 22 Oregon. This was a 2:30 kickoff on ABC. Mike Riley's first big one. Nebraska had won 6 out of their last 7 overall, dating back to the previous year, with a bowl win inside of there against UCLA in the Foster Farms Bowl. Oregon was a big brand that did not turn out to be very good that year. However, this game did propel Nebraska to a 7-0 start in a top 10 ranking during that season. Maybe the last big non-conference game that I can remember. October 7th, 2017, Nebraska hosts number 9, Wisconsin. Yes, 2017 makes an appearance on this list. This is a BTN game, and I'll tell you why.
Whoa.
Nebraska was 3-2 with losses to Oregon and Northern Illinois. Sean Eichhorst had been fired. Nebraska celebrates the 20th anniversary of the 1997 national championship team, and it's a good game. I will always remember the pop when Aaron Williams had a short pick six to tie the game at 17. This is in the third quarter. Immediately responded by a botched kickoff by Wisconsin that pinned them inside their own 10 to start the drive. What happened next was a steady diet of pain for Nebraska's defense. And Jonathan, in the form of Jonathan Taylor, he ran for 249 yards. The Mike Riley era basically ended after that night. He would only go on to win one more game. Oof. At Purdue later on that season. September 28th, 2019, Nebraska hosts number 5, Ohio State, 640 ABC. College Game Day rolls its way back into town. Nebraska announces its plans to build a $160 million football facility. The game was over within 5 minutes. Nebraska did, however, have a drive where they ran the triple option, and people thought it was cool. That drive ended in an interception.
Aw.
It was working, and they got all the way down there, and then they threw an interception. That game was a disaster. Ohio State could have won 800-7 if they wanted to. They chose not to. Thank you, Justin Fields. I appreciate that. They could have scored 800 points that night. And finally, October 9th, 2021, Nebraska hosts number 9, Michigan, 640 ABC. Nebraska had come off playing well against Oklahoma. The total collapse against Michigan State with the punt return and the broken jaw, the bludgeoning of Northwestern the week before. This is important here. Nebraska comes off a night game in which they had absolutely crushed Northwestern. It was like 52-7. And people, I think, wanted to believe just one more time.
Vibes were good.
They wanted to believe just one more time. This game was ridiculous. There was weird calls. There was wild swings. Nebraska was down 13-0 and then outscored Michigan, I believe, 22-7 in the third quarter. It was the big debut of the third quarter extravaganza of fireworks and AC/DC and all that stuff. Adrian Martinez ends up fumbling on what many thought was a dead ball forward progress situation. Nebraska loses to Michigan, and they only won 3 games that entire year.
We learned a lot of new officiating phrases that game.
Yes, we did. Michael writes in on Twitter.
Hi, Michael.
Man, these most hype games all suck.
A lot of people are commenting, what is Nebraska's record in these games? Because it seems to be not good. Connor.
You know what? I didn't even think about it. So go with me here, Josh.
Okay.
Loss.
I hate
win.
it.
Win.
Nope.
Loss. Are you keeping track?
I am.
Okay, good. Win. Loss. 3 and 9.
4 and 8.
Okay. So
I was just counting on my fingers though, so I don't know.
We get better this year.
How about 5 and 8?
Joel writes in. It says Northwestern was actually the first ACDC light show. Yeah, it was like those two games kind of live in the same space in my mind because they were back-to-back night games. I want to talk to. I want to get your guys' responses to this, but we do have to take a break here real quick, and get to Andy McCullough of The Athletic, who wrote a book about Clayton Kershaw. So we'll get to that on the other side. But we'll have plenty of time for your guys' responses to the list, the definitive list. But Andy McCullough joins us next on 1620 The Zone.